Hello, everyone. All right, here we are. Another episode of Protocol Watch. Today, we're going to be checking out on ICANN81, the meeting that is about to happen next week. It will work, as you can see on the screen, from the 9th of November to the 14th of November in Istanbul. ICANN has 3 meetings a year, and the last one is this AGM meeting, annual general meeting. The first one is community, and the second one is dedicated to policy. So even if you have a little bit of everything in the 3 of them, they are sort of focused towards that particular angle: community, policy, and AGM. The event, as I said, will be next week. So we're going to be checking on the agenda and having a look at what's going on in ICANN at the moment. And as always, let's start with what these episodes are about. This is Tech Up, brought to you by the IO Foundation. Very much improvised podcast, as trying to perfect each one of the episodes. Someone was saying, what was improvement? No. What was that? Progress, not perfection. Someone said that, and I totally agree. The aim of these episodes are essentially to portray the importance of standard developing organizations, how much of a chokehold they are in the tech sector, and to update you about what is it that is happening out there, what are those SDOs about, what kind of resources they have some type of control over, whether it is in terms of putting out technical specifications or sometimes enabling or putting out policy, as is the case of ICANN largely. And what are the different authoritarian type of movements that are happening in those organizations that we should be keeping an eye on? Because if those authoritarian profiles or parties achieve their attempt to control those SDOs, we might be in quite some trouble. We haven't gone very deep into those attempts yet. We are at the moment using season 2024 to get to learn how to do streaming better, to get to learn how to make this a more interesting and enticing stream. And we will get into the hot topics sometime early next year, season 2025. The idea is to start there, right there in January. In the past episodes, we've been essentially doing a review of main organizations, how they function, the membership, the governance, how to participate into them. And that's one of the things that we are hoping to achieve with these streamings. We would like to awaken interest in technologies to participate into these environments. It's very much needed. There isn't enough people participating in standards as opposed to what you may think. In certain environments, it's better than others. Again, it's a mixed bag. Now, we regard technologies as the next generation of rights defenders. And that would imply that it would be great if certain protections are developed at the onset, if they are incorporated into the standards and the policies, the technical codes, the protocols that are eventually inherited by the tech sector, and that technologies become the frontliners that you would hope. In essence, making sure proactively that certain things don't happen by design, because otherwise what you're doing is you're leaving all the weight of self-protecting themselves into the shoulders of the final user. And while it is good for the users to know how to protect themselves, it's just an overwhelming amount of knowledge that they need to have in order to be able to do so effectively. And so it really doesn't happen. The apathy that you observe in people when it comes to the manipulation of the data is essentially because it's way too much for them. They got other things to take care of. The reasoning is quite simple. If I have mechanisms that allow me to outsource, say for instance, going to a restaurant and eat food without having to concern myself as to whether those products are sanitary enough for me to consume, I should have exactly the same type of capacity of reassurance when it comes to technology, which is not the case at the moment, unfortunately. So that's why the IO Foundation got to exist. This is the type of work that we do. And ProtocolWatch, the project behind these streams, is essentially, as I was mentioning, keeping an eye on SDOs, keeping an eye on what are the work that they are doing at the moment, as well as the possible manipulations or attacks that those SDOs might be under, to essentially figure out ways for them to be left alone to do their own work. Ideally, you would have different organizations taking care of different areas of technology, liaising with each other when it comes to work that might be overlapping. However, not trying to duplicate work and not try to have useless, meaningless fights on who is supposed to be taking care of something, etc. Plus, of course, in the case of ICANN, it would be great if we keep managing avoiding ICANN to turn into a global content moderator. I'll get into that during the stream. All right, let's begin. Let's see. I'm checking here. Today, I'm basically doing the stream on my own in terms of content, but there's, as always, there's Super Tristan on the production, which is today remote. We are testing again, see if we always need to be on the same room, or he can do things remotely, because in terms of production, it's quite good. I don't know if Tristan is on the mic as well. Do you happen to be there?
I am, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Great. And so, yeah, let's begin with the content itself, with the actual meeting. All right, so I was mentioning ICANN. ICANN is this organization, the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers. Very summarizing what they do, they take care of everything that has to do with domain names. And those domain names can be either generic top level domains or country code top level domains. So that would be on the first hand would be your .com, .auto, .xyz, whatever strange TLDs that sometimes people come up with. And on the end of the ccTLDs is .my, .eu, .us, everything that has to do with the country code, which is essentially based on one ISO document that establishes 2-letter country codes. Now, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention we are streaming live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So around here, it's what time? It's 3:11 and in the afternoon on Sunday, the 3rd, is it? Yes, 3rd of November. All right. So as I was mentioning, ICANN runs. ICANN is an organization that takes care of domain names, GTLDs, CTLDs, but also it takes care of everything that has to do with managing IPv4 and IPv6 in terms of addresses, as well as port numbers and ASNs. Now, if you think about it, that is a lot of infrastructure on the internet. That's not infrastructure. The right expression would be those are extremely unique resources on the internet. So domain names allow you to find information or find servers or find services in a human readable way. And in the case of IP addresses, either if it's IPv4 or IPv6, it's basically the way the machines talk to each other, or they find to each other, rather. They identify each other. And in the case of ports is in the metaphor, or in the example of a computer being a building, the IP address would be the address of that building, and the port would be the letterbox inside a particular building. So there's a number of processes living in a machine. There's a number of people living in a building. If you want to be able to communicate two processes between two machines, you need the IP address of each one of the machines, and you need the port of each one of those processes through the protocol that they're going to be using for communication. So if I want to send a letter from where I live to somewhere else, I need to know the address, aka IP address in this case, or I also need to know the room number, the unit number, which would be the port. Now, all of those things are under control. So ASNs are basically huge chunks of identifiers for huge chunks of machines, basically subnetworks. All of that is controlled, or is not really controlled. It's managed by ICANN. There is a sub-organization at ICANN called IANA that takes care of the registration, all of those assignments of protocols. So someone comes up with a new protocol in IETF, and they would want to have a standard port being assigned to that new protocol. They will go through IANA. They will do the request. There's a whole procedure. One of these days, we're going to go through it, in fact, to review it. And then they assign a number, and IANA just is a huge database for all of those things, assigning ASNs, assigning IP chunks to what's called original internet registries, and then who themselves provide the assignment at the local level. So you have right now a structure where ICANN takes care of the global pool of IPv4 and IPv6. That pool gets assigned in chunks to the RIRs, APNIC in Asia Pacific, for instance, ARIN in the US, and LACNIC in South America, AFRINIC for Africa, and RIPCC, RIP-NCC, I think it is, for Europe. And they themselves do the assignments to local telcos and so forth. There is now an emerging model on countries having their own internet pool of IP addresses. Brazil, I believe, is one of them. And so they sort of complement the regional ones. Now, what I'm trying to impress with all of this is that ICANN has a huge influence on how the internet functions. Not only they get to determine how domain names are used and what you can and cannot do with those domain names, they also get to determine what are the policies for assigning IP addresses, assigning ports for protocols, yada yada yada. And so it's not, despite the fact that they don't really issue technical standards themselves, it is not an organization that you want to ignore. They have a lot of influence. And one of the good things about ICANN is that it's a very open organization. So trying to participate is not difficult whatsoever. Learning how to participate is the challenge. It's a very complex organization with a lot of subdivisions. We had already an episode on this. I'm going to be more than happy to revisit some of those details because it really takes some time to get to understand all of this. It is not a difficult organization to start working your way in terms of the SDO scene, because a lot of information is very much available. And if you don't have a fully technical background, this is still something that is achievable or accessible for you. I would still always recommend to have a strong technical background as possible, because there are elements of DNS that are well, it's a technology product, so I don't think I need to explain that much. And so this organization basically works on a multi-stakeholder governance model, which basically means pretty much anyone who's involved in DNS use management, services and so forth that are related to DNS do have a way to participate and let their opinions flow up to the decision-making areas, decision-making bodies, rather. Now, as I was mentioning, the organization meets every year 3 times. And this one is going to be the last one for this 2024, and it's happening from 9th to 14th in terms of the official event. I will be attending ICANN81, and I will be trying to report as much as I can from the site. This is going to be a very different setup that we had in as opposed to what we had in WTSA in New Delhi. So we haven't uploaded the video yet because basically I messed up in the channel where I wanted to stream. So I did a stream from New Delhi 10 days ago, something like that, and because I got the wrong channel, it went live in certain places, and then we had issues with YouTube and X, and so we basically need to upload the video manually. And what happened there was, because the WTSA is a much more confidential environment, because it's a multilateral environment where the main actors, the main members are state members. All the conversations are they are private, up to the point of one particular document being released publicly. And so what I was hoping to do, which was do a daily update, 1 hour or so, as to what's going on in WTSA, I realized not a good idea, because it's still unclear to me what can and cannot be discussed. We were also gracefully invited as part of the APNIC delegation to be over there, so we had to be very careful as to not generate any conflict or any reason for anyone to be angry, even if indirectly, with APNIC. So we were very, very conscious about that. The ITU is an environment where we want to call things out. However, we need to use only whatever is publicly available. Other circumstances aside, which we might discuss in other episodes. Now, in the case of ICANN, it's a totally different ball game. Everything is open here. The sessions are live streamed. I would definitely recommend you to go and do the registration, so you can keep an eye as to familiarize yourself with the structure and the events. Some of the sessions are in fact capacity building. I totally recommend those. We'll have a look at them now. And if you want to learn what ICANN does and so forth, meetings are a great place to start. I therefore should be able to do a bit of a summary on a daily basis as to what is happening. I'll again bring all the gear to do the streaming. I'm trying to streamline that because having to bring in back and forth microphones and arms and so forth is a bit of a pain. Now, the sound quality does matter, so the microphone is pretty much kind of a given. I don't know about the arm. I'll see that. All right, so let's get started with ICANN81. Let me check. We've been streaming 20 minutes. Okay. So if you go to this page, meetings.icann.org, you will find ICANN81 landing page and all the basic information, and you have the option here to register. I would definitely recommend you to do that. It will ask you to create an account under ICANN. Not a big deal. Get into it and register so you can have access to the schedule and the sessions. The schedule is public. However, you will not be able to see the links to the Zoom, that's what they use, unless you are logged in. So I recommend you that you do. The meetings are sort of functioning into areas, or 3 areas, if you will, or 3 segments, pieces. I don't know how to qualify that. So there is first what's called it's not showing here anymore. Interesting. There is a pre-week work. Let me see if they put it at the end. I don't believe so, because this is ordered. No, that's funny. So there should be here the pre-week. What is it? Did they show it somewhere? No. Oh, no. Okay. So this was the October 28th. Okay. There you go. So last week, this week technically, there was a pre-week meeting. It was all held online, and they're basically doing some reviews on stuff that is going to be discussed or that needs to be pre-prepared and so forth. I don't believe that you can see here you can see some archive. You get the recording, so you can have a look at each of one of them. Some of the topics were worth keeping an eye on. So anything that has to do with the ICANN board is good to follow. The blockchain name technologies. This is an ongoing conversation on how to integrate, how to make traditional domain names with upcoming naming services compatible. And there's NumCom was also making an update over there, and you can also see basically all the sessions that were held 28th, 30th, and 31st are all here available in the schedule. Okay, so what's coming is next week. As I said, it starts on the November the 8th. In reality, on the 8th, so November the 9th, sorry. On Friday 8th, there will be a day 0 set of meetings. Those are closed doors because they are basically discussions among the different constituencies. It's a lot of work, and it's quite an intense day. And I'll be there as part of NCSG, the non-commercial side of. Actually, it's going to be more on the non-contracted house party house, NCPH. All right, let's have a look at what do we have coming in the schedule. As I said, from November the 9th to the 15th, and we have here a number of type of sessions. Let's see if we can start very, very quickly with capacity building training. Those would be the public sessions. What do we have? Yes. Oh, one thing to keep in mind, if you check here on the capacity building, there is this option here, closed members only. Some of these sessions, either capacity building or else, some of those sessions will not have the closed ones will not have a stream associated with it. They will not be broadcast. And typically only the members of that particular constituency or that particular working group will be able to attend it because they are discussing sensitive information, basically. Let me see it very, very quickly. I got some messages over here. I can make sure that's not Tristan calling me out for something. All right, so what do we have here that might be extremely interesting? So how it works, Iros and Ayana, definitely, I would absolutely recommend to keep an eye on these. And the capacity, this is going to be a conflict of interest, really. The capacity development sessions for the GAC are typically also quite good. So what happens here is the GAC is the government advisory constituency. Gosh, committee. GAC ICANN. Oh, sorry, I'm not using the right keyboard. Well, the guy gives me advisory committee. Is it? Yes, AC is an advisory committee. Yes, government advisory committee. Don't worry, it's a lot of acronyms all over the place. In fact, ICANN is acronym land. So the GAC is basically government representatives attending ICANN meetings. The GAC does not have direct representation in the GNSO, which is the constituency that takes care of everything to do with GTLD, this generic top-level domains, and that's a very interesting structure for an SDO, as opposed, for instance, to the ITU, where basically the big bosses are member states. Now, because of the involvement, the people who participate in the GAC, they have a lot of rotation. So it's people from governments, they rotate in those positions, and at times there's people who come for a couple of meetings and then they disappear. But they disappear meaning they get reassigned to some other thing to do, and so the GAC has this huge revolving situation where a lot of people don't. Most newcomers don't necessarily have all the preparation in order for them to maximize the time and the participation in ICANN. So the GAC does have a lot of capacity development sessions across each of one of the meetings. I believe the one, I can't remember that one, if it was, I think it was policy, the first one of the year, had 10 sessions of development, which was great. I totally recommend them. If you don't need to be from the government to attend those, and they are great to understand how things function in ICANN. They're very good sessions. Now, unfortunately, the first session will overlap with the one that you should not let go, how it works, the ICANN policy. This one is everything that has to do with understanding the ICANN policy flow, the life cycle, how to get involved, what are the different steps, how do things get reported, how do things get implemented, and so forth. And it's one that is repeated constantly every single meeting, and is one that you don't want to miss if this is your first meeting. Now, what else? If you're interested in knowing a bit more about the business constituency and the CCNSO, there's another meeting over here, and the at large. So ALAC, it's a good option. So if I had to be, let's say, two type of profile, people who are going to be in person over there, or people who are going to be attending remotely. If you're going to be attending remotely, let's see. Actually, in this case, I would do the same. So I would definitely go for the IROS and IANA session, ICANN policy, and then make a break over here to let things settle, simmer, and then go for the ALAC one. And at some point during the meeting or after the meeting, since the recordings are available, I would go and check the 3 meetings on the development session. That would be, to me, the best way to organize that. GNSO and SAC on Sunday, definitely GNSO you want to know about it, because it's likely what's going to be affecting you the most. The internal registries give it priority on the IPC and ISPs and USSG. Universal Acceptance Steering Group, well, all of those things, if you are new, you don't need to look into it. Root server operations, if you're interested on things that have to do with how DNS works, how the root server works, and then if you are a little bit more, if you are really comfortable with that, so that would be definitely something that you need to look first. And if you're already comfortable and familiar with how the root server functions, look into what's going on with the blockchain name technologies. There's a lot of capacity building in this meeting. Is quite cool. And then the non-commercial stakeholder group and CSG. I'll definitely be on that session because I'm part of the EC. And then get to know the community, RSAC and GAC. That's actually quite cool. I'm guessing that it's correct. Yes, I was thinking they were probably going to be cramming all of that in the first 2 days so that things can be done later on in terms of participation. This is a good structure. The next gen presentations, if you are curious about what the next gen are going to be doing kind of work, that's fine. And in general, unless you are next gen or fellow, you can skip these sessions. If you have time, it's not a bad thing to go and keep an eye on what these two different sets of learning participants, if you will, have come up with. What are the observations, as well as what kind of projects come up from their interaction with ICANN, specifically ICANN81, because that's why they are next gen and fellows for that particular meeting. Capacity building, like I said, if you want to learn about ICANN, there's plenty of here for you. And even if I can imagine a few things I'm missing, so for instance, it would be good to have a general overview of the whole structure, including the board and the nom-com and so forth, which is missing here. I see a lot of the constituencies, a lot of stakeholder groups, and so forth. So GNSO, for instance, there's the organization, the generic name supporting organization, but also the SAC that has to do with security. Yeah, I'll be missing a bit more of a general structure for a broader high-level view of ICANN, if anything. All right, let's go quickly to check on plenary sessions. These are extremely important. Welcome ceremony, whatever. It's a welcome ceremony. When I say whatever, is that nothing new as to what it's going to be. Now, I always recommend this one, the Geopolitical, Legislative, and Regulatory Developments update. This is great. This is one of the best things that ICANN has, in my opinion. They keep an eye onto what is happening around the world. It's mostly from geopolitical and legislative, well, it's in the name, perspective. So, what are the changes on GDPR in Europe? What are the new regulations or policies coming up in specific regions or countries that may affect DNS at large in any possible capacity? And so it's typically a quite good session, and it seems that this time is going to be happening sometime that is not conflicting with anything that I had to attend, because in the previous 2-3 meetings is always either 5 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia, very difficult to attend. I mean, you can check the recording later, but you would like to be there when it's happening real time. Or it overlaps with something that work imposed to participate into. I'm very happy that they're doing it on Monday. Typically, they do it at the end of the meeting. That has been sort of the norm. This is probably going to make it easier to attend. Let's see. Shifting paradigms, multi-stakeholder in geopolitics, international law, and new internet infrastructures. This is going to be extremely interesting. There's no doubt about it. Then the GNSO Council meeting, anything that has to do with GNSO, specifically with the upcoming elements of the new GTLD round. So ICANN is going to be opening new GTLDs for bidding sometime next year or the year after. That's pretty much the intention. I don't know that they have set up any specific date at the moment. And whatever is going to be discussed there, it's typically cool. So let's see if there is any specific topics they're going to be looking into. Let's see. Discussion about GNSO. What's the GNSO briefing? I got here the agenda. That's the briefing here for ICANN81 edition. So what do I have here? GNSO Policy Development Process Infographic. transfer policy review, the IDNs. I'll talk a little bit about IDNs. So this is GTLD registration data, RDS. As a subsequent procedures for GTLDs, registration data accuracy scoping team, and genius schedule for, okay. So let's see at the agenda what they have here. Roll call, bring remarks, don't care. Consent agenda, don't care. Council vote, expedited policy development process on IDNs, phase 2. Okay, so this thing about the IDNs, the internationalized domain names, I will really want to call your attention to how the word is there conjugated. You should, I don't know if you've been paying attention to how words have been shaped as of late in the past years. Anything that is forcefully turned into a verb should raise red flags on you. It's not homeless people, it's unhoused people. It's not marginal people, it's marginalized people. So it's not international, it's internationalized domain names. What this implies that someone or something is doing the action of making them international in this case, as if they were not international before or something. And it becomes even more curious if it turns out that internationalized domain names are anything but ASCII written domain names. So essentially everything that is under Latin script, as we've been using ever since the beginning of the internet, is for some reason not considered international. Go figure. We've been bragging about connecting half of the population of the world, and yet it's not international enough for some reason. You should ask yourself questions as to why is that the framing that is being used. Now, they are basically going to be approving a number of different scripts to work on to be accepted in URLs, in domain names. So you're going to have domain names that can be written in Korean script, let's say, or in Hanzi, Chinese script, that I'm guessing simplified, but they will also have traditional, very, very likely. Japanese, Thai, there's a number of them. I think it was 20 plus of them. I can't remember the exact number. So the first question that I would ask myself is, well, there is a claim that Latin script is not enough for people. That is kind of a very specific decision as to which scripts can be used for identifying servers in a human readable way. But somehow there's a group of people who have also decided which ones will and which ones will not be internationalized. So 26 is just yet another unilaterally decided number. Doesn't matter how big the working group has been, doesn't matter how many people have been. There is a discrimination, and I'm not saying this from a negative perspective. And there is a group that yes, and there's a group that no. That's a discrimination method. Having a choice doesn't mean is a negative choice. The fact is the choice is made. And so the question would be, what has been the criteria for that? I haven't gone through enough of documentation to have an opinion about it, but it does concern me that there is this impression that some are going to be fine, at least in a specific phase, and I don't know if they're going to be adopting more. Now, think about the consequences of that. First of all, I don't buy into the argument that this is a need. I think it's a funny toy. I just don't think it's a need. Because the argument that I hear is that we want people to be able to type into their own script when finding information. Well, if the problem is finding information, we have SEO for that. You can totally type whatever text you want in your own script. There's been a lot of internationalization going on in browsers and so forth, and the SEO is pretty much suitable for that, because you will not, even though domain names and URLs do have a huge weight on an SEO score, the actual keywords and the content of a specific site, app, platform, whatever it is, it's heavily influenced by the script that is used too. And so if a Thai person doesn't know how to type in English for whatever reason, they can still type in Thai and very likely going to find information that they want. And if there was a need to let's say, decrease the relevance or the importance of domain names and URLs and the SEO versus making the content of the page more important, ICANN could actually try to make that case with Google, Meta, and so forth, Microsoft, and let them just attempt to change those algorithms so that internationalization is much more taken into account. I think there's solutions for that do not require, what's the English term? Gobble? As in increase the size of browsers having to be able now to read so many different scripts just for people who probably will never use them. And what are we going to be doing this? So what's the distribution mechanism? I don't understand it. Either you have a specific multi-planetary scripts type of thing, which is basically the universal acceptance program from ICANN, in which all possible scripts and all possible domains have to be recognized by a given interface, which is not a bad thing in itself. I have no problem with the concept itself. I'm thinking about the implementation. How much bloated will your software have to be able to consider all of those things when you are very unlikely to use any of them? I find that to be a very questionable argument. Now, aside from that, welcome to way more easy to implement phishing attacks. People get tricked with Google versus Google.com. I mean, I do have some background on Hanzus because of a personal history of mine. Just most people don't. And I myself, if someone gives me a URL in Hanzu, I'll have no idea if this is a legit one or not. There's going to be way more phishing attacks with making use of internationalized domain names. And I still also have to dig a little bit more into how the implementation is going to be, because if you remember the episode that we did on ICANN, and we checked on IANA, and we went through this, see if I can find it very quickly. So IANA.org. Domain names, IDNs, practices repository. I don't think it was this one. Let me see very quickly, because it's probably just the practices, IDN tables. Yes. So normally, one given GTLD will have one specific responsible party. But now for each of one of the languages, each of one of the scripts, there's going to be different ones. So .academy, let's see, each one TLD will have to apparently declare which alternative scripts it might be written into, and there will be different. Look at this. So .academy in Tamil would be responded by Donos Inc. as well as in Thai, but then in Japanese, Identity Digital Inc. How does this make any sense? I'm failing to understand exactly, aside of course for the money-making motive, what is the advantage of this? In fact, what I can imagine is that if you're going to have shutdowns in certain places or connectivity problems or geofencing of whatever sort, you're going to have certain languages not available based on who is hosting them. I don't know. This is very strange to me. I'm concerned about what is this trying to attempt. I don't find that there is a compelling case to me for this to be needed. I think we had all the solutions, all the efforts, money that is being invested on this. I do not see that this is going to be very much used. 69 policy recommendations and implementation guidance. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not sold into this. It's been concerning to me ever since this thing started, and I understand that there's a lot of people who are very passionate about it. And again, I'm gonna have to read the small print. I don't mind people having better access to information. That is not the issue. It's how do we do achieve that is really questionable in this case. If the IDNs is how do you want to go over there, and then when there is comments about IDNs being, I'm paraphrasing here, a method or the way for language justice, that should just equally raise red flags. What do you mean by justice? And this is a question that I asked to the board, and I still haven't got any answer to it. Why does there have to be any justice on domains or languages? The people who invented the internet happen to be English speaking, and that became the language of the environment. If you want to participate, tough luck, learn English. English is not my first language at all. And in fact, I learned it quite late in my life. I was 32, more or less, when I started using it on a much more regular basis. This idea that you need to water down things for everybody is absolutely insane to me. If I wanted to go to poetry workshop, I would not be, I mean, what kind of hard face would I have to go into the environment and ask, oh, please, can you water down all of your very nice poems, because I haven't done my homework and I haven't read the classics, so I got no idea what you guys are talking about. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. This is, of course, is multifaceted, because I also don't believe that everyone should have access to the internet. They will have access. They should have internet if they decide to. I don't think it should be an imposition from anybody. Internet is a service. You decide whether you want to be on it or not. You decide whether you want to use it or not. It should be part of your personal freedom. There should not be an expectation that you have to be on the internet, which is part of the weak argument that I hear all the time about having to connect the unconnected. Well, has anyone asked them if they wanted to get connected to begin with? I understand that they might be on a, they may have a handicap with, as opposed to other areas, and of course you wouldn't want them to take that decision without having the information as to how it's going to be affecting them. That's all good and dandy. That's not the issue. The issue is this idea that everyone has to be. What? I'm not convinced about that. Community networks shouldn't have to be connected to the internet. They should have the possibility to get connected to the internet for as long as they provide the service and the help that particular community could benefit out of technology. That's about it. You don't have to force them or to expect them to be connected to the main network. They should be just happy with their own local network if that is sufficient for them. And so this thing about internationalizing domain names, of course excluding English, as I was mentioning before, Latin script / ASCII, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it. It's concerning to me. I haven't even raised my concerns on what will happen on backend when you have to connect systems with domain names that you cannot read because you don't understand that particular script. You're not trained on that particular script. So you are basically, this is to me a Babel problem. We had one single unified language to be able to, and by language I'm not talking about the English language, I'm talking about the script. We have one single way of defining things to find the information through a browser, the same way that we have one single unified language for mathematics. Those numbers 1 to 0, we all agreed upon them. If you want to learn math, well, tough luck, you're going to have to learn some numbers. Too bad, eh? And now all of a sudden we want to explode and disaggregate all of that and turn domain names into being able to be written in so many different scripts. It's just bananas to me. Yeah, absolutely bananas. Council, initiation of policy development process, PTP for Latin script diacritics, wherever. Council discussion, policy status report on rights protection mechanisms, RPM, phase 2. Draft charge. I want to find a way to have a proper flow of what are the current topics on ICANN. This is one difficulty that I have. If you want to have a general idea of what's going on ICANN, you can get a rather good idea of what happens in one's constituency or one SO that in which you participate. The high level of things it's still a challenge. And they are working areas that they have ongoing work, and the idea would be to know exactly how these function and which is the current list. We've been discussing, in fact, right before the stream, I was discussing with Tristan about this, that this is something that we need to find a way to simplify all of the huge ocean of information to, I wouldn't call it a Gantt chart, but something along those lines. Streams, flows, whatever you want to call it, topics, and see what's the status, what's the life cycle on each of one of them. I haven't found proper information because each of one of the organizations, constituencies, are working on their own. I wouldn't say on their own silo, but a lot of information is done in their own environment. So you have to go to their websites. There's 5 of them. You have to go to different 5 websites to figure out what's going on each one of them. And sometimes they are correlated, sometimes it isn't. It's not straightforward. And I'm a bit bothered by that. It's not easy to keep track of everything. We're going to be figuring out a solution for this. So an annual report for the GNSO liaison with the GAC, GNSO liaison, okay, and some of the business. Okay, review teams, blah, blah, blah. All right, so anyway, not a bad thing to be participating in anything that has to do with the GNSO. I'm gonna close this. And these are our plenary session. So, and the board meeting, by all means, you gotta be there. That's one to attend. Now, let's go for public sessions for policy development. What's going on here? Universal Acceptance Committee, that's what I was mentioning. The Universal Acceptance is this program from ICANN to try to make all GTLDs, all scripts, also CCTLDs, of course, being recognized by every single platform. The subsequent procedures, implementation review team work session. So that's for GDS. Let's see. That's going to be in here. So information and status and base registry agreement. Okay, that's topic 36 is one of the different areas of sub-priority. And then, okay, not much is in the agenda. Other things that I would recommend, definitely, let's see. If this is public, it seems to be the strategic planning and operational matters. I would say that this is interesting. NCSG Policy Committee work session, by all means, because, well, if you are non-commercial, if you are on the business side, you want to be on the CSG. What else? The problem with sessions that have different episodes is that eventually one of them will get overlapped by something that you want to attend. It's very difficult to commit to all the sessions unless you are specifically on the let's say ALAC management or participation, and that's your focus area. I tend to leave those sessions for after the event is done. After the meeting is done, I just look at the recordings. By all means, please come to the NPOC membership work session. I'm also a member of NPOC, the not-for-profit organizations constituency. And we got two cool guests coming up. What else? Let me see. Okay, the next GTLD program again is going to be divided into two. But everything that has to do with the upcoming GTLD round is something to keep an eye on. If you're interested on human rights, this session, I believe this is the one. Is this the tabletop exercise? Let me see. I believe so. Yeah. So this session would be interesting to participate as well. If you are in the commercial side, the membership for the commercial stakeholder group is going to be there. And what else? The standing committee and public technical identifiers, I find this to be quite cool. Again, it's because of the importance of the public technical identifiers in the use of the internet. There is this thing that we need to look into, basically, on this increasing push towards semantic information. And I was just reading, what was it, today or yesterday, I can't remember, about some comments or some opinion on the IPv4 and IPv6 having, specifically IPv6 having problems in terms of deployment across the world because the incentives are not there anymore, or start not being there. And so the argument that was given was that a lot of the communication at the moment between the user and services is through CDN networks, and that would pretty much remove the need. That's the argument that is made. I don't agree with the argument. I'm oversimplifying it for the sake of the discussion. Essentially, the idea is that CDNs can just take care of themselves in terms of finding information because it's all semantic, as opposed to IP addresses, and as a result, there's no much of a need for IPv6 to be deployed, and that's slowing down, etc., etc. I think that's debatable. I'm not 100% sold into that idea. However, what is relevant is to keep an eye on how policy evolves when it comes to technical identifiers, resource identifiers. That's going to be, that to me matters more. Okay, council work session. Again, 1 out of 8. Save those for later. The IDN subtract, I'm probably going to be keeping an eye on that because of the concerns that I've been mentioning. New TLDs, okay. This is from the registries, if I'm not wrong. Stakeholder group. ICANN board and CSG. That's not going to be. ICANN board and GNSO council. This one definitely. RSAC, these typically are closed doors, so I don't believe that this is going to be participation. No, this one is public. There's some of them that are private. NCSG for non-commercial with ICANN board, definitely got to be there. DNS abuse mitigation. So it's always interesting to know how DNS abuse is defined. Different organizations define it differently. ICANN has quite specific definition of what do they consider abuse mitigation. Well, you know. So let's explain a little bit on the high end what has been happening with what could be considered. It's not considered by ICANN's definition. It's not DNS abuse. It still falls into what could be considered a response mechanism by ICANN should the domain name be abused in terms of content. So what happens is there is going to be a new round of GTLDs coming up in the foreseeable future to 2025, 2026. I've heard both. I think there was an announcement on this. I have to double check this. Let's have a look. ICANN next GTLD round. Q2 2026 expected to open. And the applicant guidebook apparently would be sometime in May 2025, because this is a huge, big, large ticket for ICANN. They have to take they have to design the full application forms and application book, which is basically the guideline as to how to apply, as well as put together the different price brackets and the language for the contractual agreements, as well as there's support programs for the application, and all that is just taking forever. Now, what happened was certain people inside ICANN decided to float the idea that certain language should be added in the contractual agreements. The contractual agreements are basically what ties legally between a company or an organization that has secured the assigning of a given GTLD through the corresponding bidding process, and everything that is done has to be complying those contractual agreements. Now, ICANN very clearly, let's go check this on the ICANN bylaws. Let me set you a little bit of context here. I think it was 4 hours. Oh, let's just do it. What's the number? 1.1 C says very clearly, ICANN shall not regulate, that means impose rules and restrictions on, services that use the internet's unique identifiers or the content that such services carry or provide outside the express scope of Section 118. For avoidance of doubt, ICANN does not hold any governmentally authorized regulatory authority. What does that mean is that ICANN, by its own bylaws, does not enter to evaluate or to regulate any content on the internet, which is exactly what you want. You want ICANN to just provide the policy for the domains and not to get involved into anything that has to do with content. Because of course, content is going to be something that will be interpreted based on your own personal view of the world or specific legislation and whatnot, and ICANN should not get involved into any of that. Now, someone came up with a way to try to overcome those bylaws. So if you wanted to turn, imagine, so just think for a minute, imagine how much of a powerful entity ICANN is, who, by handling all the domains all over the world, they have the ability to shut down any single domain that they want at any given time. They don't do it because they have mechanisms for that, and so far those mechanisms have been very resilient and very, very good. And so censorship is very difficult to enact through ICANN, because ICANN removes itself from the equation, and as a result, it's very, very hard to go down that path. Now, someone figured that there was a way to use those contractual agreements that I was mentioning before to attempt to overcome the ICANN bylaws. Because if they wanted to change the bylaws, I am not fully acquainted with the whole procedure. What I do know is that it's very difficult. And so trying to change that, although not impossible, just extremely, extremely difficult, and possibly will never happen. They figured out there was a way to go through the back door and to use these contractual agreements. Luckily, there has been a statement from the board in Kigali ICANN80 that after several months of concerns, this has been discussed in the community for quite some time, and there will be a session in cannot remember right now, it was 79 or 80, where a lot of these situations were discussed, and it was quite clear where things were going. The board issued a statement indicating that they will be not allowing language in those contractual agreements that bypass the bylaws, which is great. So at this moment, that seems to be stopped. Make no mistake, whoever wanted this kind of clauses to be involved or included in the contractual agreements, they are not going to stop. So we need to keep an eye on this. However, at the moment, it seems to be averted, which is good news for once. And so I would definitely look into what is being discussed in terms of abuse mitigation in case there is language that is dropped that tends to or attempts to redirect the conversation towards this is a DNS abuse. Maybe we need to redefine what DNS is abuse, and someone flips or inserts there some content moderation language, very well masqueraded or whatever, and then we go back to square one and we have the same problem. So I would still keep an eye on anything that has to do with DNS abuse, because abuse remains a very open to interpretation term, and you don't want this to be an easy pathway for content moderation by ICANN. If you are in a non-commercial, definitely NCUC, you should be going. And then What else? I lack community engagement subcommittee. There's a lot of stuff happening on the AGM. It's always very, very difficult to be able to attend everything. The RSAC, it's always cool to see what's going on with the root server. Membership for a session for GNSO, also for NCNC. Definitely, if you are non-commercial, you want to go there. And let's get some communicate drafting. What are they going to be communicating? What's the idea here? Drafting of the ICANN81 GAG communique. What is a GAG communique? So let's see what did they say about San Juan. Kigali, the latest one. So what do they say here? It's basically a statement from okay, inter-constituency activities and community engagement. This seems to be just a report and positions from the GAC working groups. Okay. GAC strategic planning. Code of ethics. Red flag. Seriously, someone please tell me whose ethics. It's so frustrating. Everyone talks about ethics here, ethics there, ethics everywhere. No one gets to tell you whose ethics. And there's a reason why they're not telling you. And you should ask yourself, what is that reason? Maybe we can discuss about it one day. DNS abuse. This is just a report for each of one of the meetings. Fine. Funny thing that they have 6 sessions for drafting that communique. That's funny. So IANA naming function review, definitely cool to keep an eye on what's going on in terms of the procedures for IANA and so forth. RDRS standing committee work session. Yes, since Quiz is being replaced and RDRS is taking over in order to respect data protection laws out there, GDPR and so forth. It's always good to keep an eye on that. And PPSI is also another interesting working session. There's a lot of stuff happening in there. Let me see. What else? That'll be it. Now, let's go back to the... Let's see. Technical ones. Let's see what we have. Public sessions for technical. I think some lightning talks there. That sounds cool. Be interesting to see what are people going to be discussing. If you're a technical background, definitely check the technical sessions here. There isn't a list of okay, so monthly meeting. Okay, more SAC tech day. There's typically not what I wanted. 3 to about 4 sessions of tech day in on average, if I'm not wrong. I wanted to see the is there an agenda anywhere? What are they going to be discussing? Normally is a DNSSEC and optimizations on DNS and so forth. So tech day. Okay. Okay, this is not helping. Background agenda. What? So let's say this is which day? Monday 11th. Tech day, background agenda here. Okay, so the agenda is not out. All right. Well, you can see it's 4 sessions. It's typically worth, if you have a technical background, it's typically worth to attend. I'm going to keep that tab open because I'll check later. More lightning talks, open source software work party meeting. That's cool. DNSSEC, by all means. So IDN, I'll definitely try to attend this one because I need to figure out more elements about what is this being, how is this being implemented. And board and SAC would be good to see what is the board being updated on when it comes to the SAC agenda to be discussed. It's still no agenda. Okay. What else? Reporting and updates. Well, socials, if you're going to be there in person, by all means, attend all the socials. So the public coffee breaks and so forth, ignore those. But definitely the host reception is always good to go and meet people. And there's also going to be a closing reception, far I can see. There's nothing else in between. There's likely going to be some more parties. Typically, relevant organizations are going to be throwing their own parties, and some of them private, some of them are public. The thing is, even the public ones, you may not be informed directly. Just network around. They will telling you when and where. And it's the best place to actually go and get to meet people and exchange ideas. The sessions are very structured to one specific outcome. When you are out there doing some socializing, a lot of stuff comes out of it. Reporting ones, what is there? Okay. Implementation, IRP. Implementation oversight team, community update. I got no idea what's going on there. Cross-community interactions. Let's see. It's going to be different people meeting other different people. So GAC and RSAC, ALAC and SAC, all the constituencies, all the advisory committees. Advisory, oh my gosh, the terminology just drives me crazy. Afralo, African session, GAC and ESO, yada, yada, yada. So all the supporting organizations with all the SOs and all the ACs and all the SGs talking to each other, meeting, exchanging. All right. What else? Internal work, policy development. Did we check this one? Possibly, yes. Yeah, I checked this already. Request sessions not plenary, no. Outreach engagement, I'm not sure exactly what are these two. IANA in 2030. Interesting. What are they trying to do here? Brief reflection of the scope of what IANA does, then what it has done to evolve in recent years, and talk about where the IANA should be by 2030. I'm not sure Kim would like my ideas as to where do I think this is going. As the Internet's coordinator of unique identifiers and authoritative record keeper, IANA must meet community needs in a landscape of emerging Internet technologies and evolving Internet governance models. This discussion will be timely as IANA needs to develop its next 5-year strategic plan. How will IANA innovate to meet? I definitely need to attend this one. My personal position at the moment is that SDOs are heading towards their I don't know if I want to call it demise. I definitely don't want to use the word transformation. It's going to change for the lack of a better word. I'll have to come up with something. I don't think they're going to be acting the way they are acting nowadays in 5 to 10 years. I think there's more than enough technology development coming up. I don't want to have this conversation here in this stream. I just don't feel that a lot of the stuff that we are dealing with nowadays and a lot of the structure that we have nowadays is going to be applicable 5 to 10 years. I don't think ITF is going to be issuing next generation protocols. I don't think IANA is going to be keeping record of things, at least not the way IANA functions at the moment and not with the structure that it has. It's possible that IANA exists as an entity, just way more automated, way more. Yeah, definitely a session to attend. What else? Edit Wikathon, if you are interested in participating in the ICANN wiki, you should definitely attend, and they're going to be updating a number of pages and so forth. Asia Pacific space, definitely community to be attending. And what else? Emerging identifier technologies, yes, by all means. This we need to figure out what's going to happen there. Public forum. So this is where people can have the open mic and ask questions, aside from of course provide feedback from the board and other relevant parties in the management of ICANN. And this is basically where the community just takes the mic for 1 or 2 minutes and asks questions, raise concerns, or offers praises. I don't think everyone who takes the microphone should be going there to just to bitch. Sometimes these things are well done and it's worth praising them and it's worth giving credit to people. I know that humans like to complain more than give praises. Would be nice if every now and then we remember that things take a lot of effort to get done, and most mistakes are mostly attributable to errors than bad faith actors, more often than not. Okay, so yeah, I'm bothered because I wanted to prepare the episode a bit more specifically and targeted to certain things, and WTSA got in the way and a lot of work in between, and I haven't been able to do that. But what we're going to be working towards is being able to have that radar for for ICANN and figured out exactly what is it that is happening at any given time and who would be involved into those. We are developing a way to achieve that. We just don't know exactly how long it's going to take us for it. And once that is done, and by the way, if anyone listens to this stream and has any experience on training LLMs/SLMs, by all means, please reach out to us, contact@theiofoundation.org. And we're trying to figure out a way to be able to portray a better general high-level image as to what's going on in ICANN, as well as ITF and ITU, and who knows who eventually W3C as well, which is another organization that has been in our radar for quite some time. And only because of lack of resources, we haven't been able to get into it. I'm curious as to which sessions have been marked as popular. Oh, this must be an automated selection based on what people have selected as their own agenda as they log in. So once you log in, you can basically select the sessions that you want to be attending. So my guess is that this is just the ranking mostly. Okay. What else? Is there anything here that we should be taking care of? Not particularly. This seems to be a very short episode because I can't get into all of the details because we haven't prepared all of the details properly, and it kills me that we were not able to do so. It is, however, the reality of this of the circumstance of the situation. Where do I remove all the filters, by the way? Because now if I want to go all days, no, I want, let's see. Schedule simple. Yeah, that does reset the whole thing. Okay. Yep. So I don't think there's much more to discuss in this particular one. I will be trying again to keep an eye on what are the developments as they pass, and I will try to do short streams from Istanbul and see what happens with that. Tristan, anything else that crosses your mind?
No, not at this moment.
Yeah, I'm a bit bummed. I didn't want to just review the agenda. I wanted to be able to discuss a few things, and I don't see that there's enough context that we can provide. So one of the problems that you have, and this is one of the challenges you're going to have if you ever get involved with ICANN, these processes take a long time. And so, for instance, a PDP can take 4 or 5 years. A policy process development procedure can take 4 to 5 years to get all the way done, sometimes even longer. So the IDNs has a whole story of being on the backlog for about 10 years or something, and it just has been pushed into what's called an ePDP, an express or an expedited PDP, in order to just activate this and get it out as soon as possible. And so either you are there when one of these projects or streams are put together and start participating from the very beginning, and you get the full context. Or if you land there 3 years after they started, you get 3 years of history to remember, to get to know. And so you can imagine, as opposed, for instance, to ITF, I can go to a specific area and have a look at to what is the ongoing work. And yes, again, the 3 years that they may have been working on specific RFC is context that needs to be learned in order to be able to participate actively in that particular RFC. However, the structure of ITF is already telling you, giving you a general idea of what's cooking in the ITF. The distribution, the segmentation of the areas, as well as the working groups, gives you a good sense of what it is that they are working on at the moment. Now, in the case of ICANN, it's a bit more complex than that, because a lot of things happen in like I said, in somehow silos, and there doesn't seem to be a specific one single source of truth as to what is happening in ICANN. And if you wanted to be able to review every single one of those what is happening, we will have to review the history of it for I don't know how many years for each of one of them. And that's what we still haven't done. And so it's difficult to go in and say, for instance, what does the policy gap analysis working group is looking into? What kind of gap analysis they're doing? Why is it specific on the CCNSO? Is it that there's a problem with the way the country code domain names, GTLDs are being handled? Is there something there? Well, there might be. I need to look. So objective of the PGA working group is to identify, analyze, and advise Council if and how to address gaps in existing CCNSO policies that's duplicated, guidance or practices pertaining to the delegation, transfer, revocation, and retirements of CCTLDs. Well, transfer and revocation, that's going to be an interesting topic when it comes to .io. If you guys haven't heard, for instance, so Indian Ocean CCTLD is now a little bit in a hot topic because the UK government, I can actually pull that page, .io domain, and the wiki does give enough reference on this. So here, so in October, just last month, the UK announced that it will eventually cede the British Indian Ocean territory to Mauritius. And so there is a transfer that had to be done for the .io domain. And as they say, the current rules indicate that the .io domain should be phased out. However, like they also said, there's been exceptions have been granted, such as .su. And so it would be interesting to see whether this does go somewhere or not. And I'm guessing that that's one of the elements that they are looking into when it comes to this so-called gap analysis. And I would say, for instance, anyone who's interested on what may happen with .io, I'll definitely go and check this session. But again, that was easy to explain. But if I have to go through each of one of the sub-pro, the subsequent procedures, implementation review team, it's like you say here, final report, bloody hell, final report on the new GTLD subsequent procedures policy development process. It's a lot of story. I barely know 1% of it. So we need to do much more homework or invite experts. I would definitely love to have someone who has been involved into any of these topics one by one and give us a rundown of the situation. That wouldn't be an actual bad idea. Let me think about it. Actually, that's something we could try to do during this meeting, not to have interviews, but we could try to identify who could be interested on coming into the podcast and just give us a rundown as to what's the status on that particular work. That does make sense. What do you think, Tristan? You like the idea?
Yeah. The only thing is, like, how are we getting them to participate? Like either remote or on site, for example.
Yeah, it will have to be remote. And at that point, we need to start doing prep sessions to figured out, especially the audio quality. I'm not so much concerned about the video quality, because you can always switch off the camera if ever. But the audio just needs to be crisp enough. We will have to think about it. Maybe we just run 1 or 2 examples and see how it goes, and we learn from the experience. But it does make sense to me to try to figure out someone who might be in the room, involved into that particular working group or in that particular IRT, and just invite them over for an hour, and for them to give us a general rundown on, what's the story morning glory, basically.
You can always also just interview them separately and then just play the video on the stream.
Yeah, that's also possible. We're going to be playing around with a lot of formats. I can see that coming, because we need to figure out exactly what would be the best, the most interactive way to do it. And there's also, of course, the problem of the time zone difference. A lot of these people are going to be either in Europe or in the US, and that's kind of a killer. They would never be able to do, for instance, the live stream as we have it right now. All right, so let's call it a day. Let's not drag this unnecessarily. If there's anything that we can promise you, is that we are in fact working towards structuring better our episodes and give you much more focused information. This is a little bit, I wouldn't say all over the place, because we're discussing general on a meeting. However, as we move forward, we're going to be able to establish things such as, what are the very hot topics that you need to pay attention on a given meeting. What will be the things that we're going to be participating as an organization, and which ones we'll be trying to steer, because we have observed things that we don't like. And as we keep getting better at streaming and organizing, again, progress, not perfection, we will be able to fine tune and make these streams as useful as possible. Remember to always come back to us with feedback, either comments on the videos or contacting us to contact@theiofoundation.org. We want to know if there's anything in particular that is bothering you, if there's any specific topic that you would want us to dig, to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak. And we will look into, you can expect that we're going to be definitely having sessions for each of one of the meetings that are scheduled for IETF and ICANN. So that's going to be 3 for each of one of them in 2025. As well as whatever it is that we can do when it comes to ITU, and we will complement all of those with specific sessions, specific streams on one topic. We want to do definitely anything that has to do with new IP and semantic communications, as well as all of these recent attempts to basically collapse the communication stack that concerns us quite a bit. And we will hopefully be able to do some more regular streams, not only every 2 weeks, on very focused topics, and turn them into a bit of a online research type of circumstance. Again, we're gonna come up with a better way to do this. It's definitely something that we are committed into. All right, that will be all for me. Time check has been 1:41. It's the shortest stream we've ever done. But well, there's not much to discuss aside from this. Tristan, anything else on your end?
No, none from me.
All right, so thank you for watching. Reach out to us if there's any question or any request, and see you next time.